couple things are going on, and I think that I actually dropped some really useful advice to just about anybody thinking about being a TTRPG content creator. Here's what you need to know about plans that I know I'm personally making, and I've heard about other people making their plans regarding their, I guess, whatever their business plan is going to be for the next 5 years. Here's what you need to know that I'm considering, okay? So first off, out of the most successful 100,000 plus raised crowdfunded TTRPG projects in 2023, 43 of 105 of those projects were 5th edition. In 2024, this has shrunk nearly 50% to 22 of 106. Wild times we're in, folks. Data is from Tabletop Analytics and compiled by MT Black. This comes directly from a website that gets all of this information from Kickstarter. This was all compiled by MT Black, but like this comes from a website whose entire deal is just tracking the success of different tabletop projects on Kickstarter. I said, if this post gets traction, I just want to say a few things. Number one, MT Black and I actually make more money when D&D is popular, as we're both DMs Guild creators. If you were watching earlier, I went into how much revenue I had actually made on the DMs Guild in the last like 15 days. And it's only like $250. As one of the larger creators that's over there on that website right now, if you want some perspective as to how much money you can make on there, I haven't really uploaded much of anything over there in about probably coming up on 6 months. My last big thing was the Anthology of Heroes, actually right over there, right? But that's available in print. And like, guys, it's just D&D 5e is not getting a lot of sales. I had other people, after I posted this, message me all this other stuff and say that all the data I have right here completely one-for-one scans with what their storefront sales are telling them right now. This is industry-wide. Just going to say it, okay? 2024 was one of the biggest years for new system development, and Shadowdark is rising as another super hackable core akin to Merkborg. This is happening. Shadowdark is picking up a lot of popularity, as what I think Kelsey did that a lot of people latched onto is the core resolution mechanic and damage structure is infinitely more approachable in Shadowdark than it is over in 5th edition. Objectively, that's true. Shadowdark is also way more compatible with tons of material that's already written out there. Shadowdark has a very, very open license, straight up just basically letting people completely reprint the rulebook in their own thing. I own one of those things over here, Shadow Rim. I did a video on this because it is that good. This would not have existed had her license been any more restrictive than it was. Did I port stuff to Shadowdark? Yes, I've already ported a bunch of my classes and stuff over. Haven't totally released that just yet, but yes, that it's a very easy system to write for. This data comes from Kickstarter and BackerKit. It's only crowdfunding and doesn't account for retail, drive-through RPG, or the DMs Guild. Now, I know I just said that this is industry-wide. I am going to just assume that that is also the way that it would track for retail, but I have not talked to a distributor, so like full transparency on that. I don't actually have a means to directly get those metrics, but I guess I could hit up like Steven Glicker and maybe see if like this doesn't also trend with that. With drive-through RPG or the DMs Guild, I'm not sure, but I do definitely know that people aren't really picking up stuff over on the DMs Guild regarding D&D right now. From my own sales and what I have heard from other 5e third-party publishers, this data tracks almost one-for-one with storefront sales. And this is off of, this is like Shopify, Squarespace, whatever you want to call it, okay? I don't know really what's happening on D&D Beyond. That could be a different anomaly. It could be that people are just looking at that as the one storefront where they're ever going to pick up Dungeons and Dragons material, and maybe in that case, the only data we're going to get on that is what Wizards of the Coast is going to drop to us. I'm going to, so that's just me dropping the truth bomb of what we've seen tracking for TTRPG projects, right? A couple of things to make note of here is that the fact that the products, like the overall projects have shrunk for 5e, right? Notice that there's basically a 50% drop from 43 down to 22, but the number of projects that actually raised over $100,000, it only increased by one, right? But like, you know, it's here, right? This stayed about the same. I actually prefer that it stayed about the same because what it really shows right here is just that 5e dropped off and not anything else. That's cool. That's interesting. The hobby is like seeing that 5e is receding in a way. we could say the fact that they are releasing a new rule set causes it to drip right here, right? Okay, I get that. This number should have also gone down if those were the cases, okay? This number is more telling to me than this number right here, is what I at least whenever I'm inferring this data. So what I think people could see is like, I'm going to say, I think that if you're looking at making TTRPG stuff, you should consider a couple different licenses. Because I am who I am and this is how I make my money, I'm going to immediately have to plug Vagabond here, because if I don't, certain people are going to be mad at me, including myself. Vagabond, it is an open license. Woo! Right here. Okay. Open license. If you want to hack with it, go for it. I'm still drafting up some more like formal stuff, but yes, I am trying to keep it as an open license. You will keep 100% of your revenue. All I ask that you do, like, hey, if you make some Nazi shit with it, I didn't make it. Say that I didn't fucking make it, please. All right? I'm not responsible for the stupid shit you make with it. I need a release of responsibility. You make what you're going to make with it, and I'm just going to say, I'm keeping my fingers out of your fucking pie. All right? That's the same way that it works with Merkborg, same way that it works with Shadowdark. Look around. Look around. You should write for Vagabond, Shadowdark, and what else? There are a lot of systems that are keeping a 100% royalty open, like kind of a deal for you right now, right? I believe OSEs is 100% open. Old School Essentials. Knaves is 100% open. There's so many. More people are actually 100% open than those that demand a royalty. Shop around, but you're going to find a lot more open, like easy hackerspace in the OSR than you're going to find in 5e or like Pathfinder. Also, I think Chaosium may be moving over towards the orc. I'm just going to say this as somebody who has talked to lawyers who were involved with writing the orc. I have been told from people who were in the room drafting the motherfucker not to use it. I am not a lawyer, but for people who are asking me why I didn't use the orc for Vagabond, it's because I talked to the people who wrote it, or I talked to some of the people who wrote it, and even they told me not to fucking use it. Why would I do that whenever I can just do a release of responsibility and it's less worry overall about having to interpret a fucking legal document, right? I understand the guys that put it together really into Pathfinder and they're used to reading big fucking legal documents of books, but like that's not what I'm into. Chaosium is going into the orc as well. Yeah, I don't think that that's necessary. For people who are wondering why I haven't put Vagabond into the orc or why I would or would not use the orc, the big long and short of it is my advice to anybody that's making anything, if it's going to require licensing, don't just blindly use a license that you do not understand 100%. And for the majority of things, you probably don't need to craft a license if you just say straight up. And by the way, your game will have more active people writing shit for it if you just do this instead, okay? And that is do a release of responsibility. Yeah, I'm doing a release of responsibility with Vagabond. And I'm going to say you can make whatever shit you want to with this game. Okay, if you want to make like your own setting and do whatever, I can't stop you. I don't want to. That's a headache. I don't want to hire lawyers. I don't want to go to court because some dipshit made a thing that like I disagree with. I'm like, no, well, okay, that guy's an ass, but like, I'm just going to say, put in your book, hey, this is not affiliated with Land of the Blind. Okay, this is not official. You put that in there. If you don't put it in there, then I'm coming after your ass. If it's something that I'm like, hey, we're snapping it down on this right now. And if people try to represent themselves as Land of the Blind, that's also a thing where I have to come in and say, yeah, we're stopping this. If someone wants to publish products and they use the Vagabond thing, I love it. I love that so much. But whenever you start trying to rep yourself as my company, if you start trying to associate that like, hey, Taron Pounds made this, we're going to have a big problem. Right. And that's a whole other thing. I haven't had too many people actually try to do that, but I do also have control of the distribution. Like I have the right to control how my product is distributed as well. And I do exercise that. If people have ever wondered why I take down shit from Scribd, it has nothing to do with the fact that they distribute Vagabond over there, right? It's the fact that they're making money off of it. It's the fact that Scribd is still charging you a subscription fee to access my motherfucking game. They are stealing my content and charging you to pirate my content. Scribd can eat the fattest fucking dick. Yeah, no, Scribd can absolutely get fucked. I'm actually really shocked there's not a class action against them. However, if someone hears about one, let your boy know. I'd be more than happy to get involved with a class action against Scribd. I make my game for free. If you're paying for Vagabond, you're paying for physical product, or you're paying for the big expanded core rulebook that has the bestiary and all that other shit, right? You're paying for 200 pages of material, original art, and all that other stuff. This, as a PDF, is free. But what I really appreciate having it out there for free is everybody's emails. So that they know, hey, if I want to go support the full rulebook, here's where I can go over and see that, right? Scribd seems shady. I guarantee you, if somebody were to actually do an investigation into Scribd, I promise you it is infinitely more fucking shady than just some dude on the computer that's hosting up pirated shit. The fact that they are trying to monetize pirated content, I guarantee you that should have somebody in handcuffs. There are a few things that piss me off as bad as that fucking website. Scribd is an abomination. And of course, I will go over there, and if somebody uploads Vagabond, I'm going to DMCA it for the simple matter of they're pirating my content and they're charging people to download it. Where should you look to learn more about release of responsibility? I'm going to tell you straight up, release of responsibility, all it means is straight up, you just say, like you have to say in your product that I'm not responsible for your product being made. Land of the Blind is not affiliated with your product. So let me wrap this up. This is my advice right here to anybody looking at getting into making content in the TTRPG scene, okay? I'm going to drop some advice and predictions for 2025 TTRPG content. Genuinely, this is how I do feel. This is not coming from a place of hating Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, anything like that. This is just what I'm kind of forecasting as somebody that makes this. This is my day job. And by the way, I'm pretty fucking successful at my day job. If you want to know what I'm thinking and you want to kind of guide that stuff around it or whatever, this is just my advice and what I'm kind of predicting the landscape is going to be. Of course, you are responsible for your financial decisions. This is just coming from somebody who I feel like I have my fingers in the fucking scene, all right? System neutral, rules light, and OSR content is getting popular. Familiarize yourself with Basic Expert or you're missing out on a huge growing market. For real, this is popping off, okay? We have big, whenever we're talking about these TTRPG Kickstarters that are popping off like this, JP Coover just straight up got, I think it was $250,000 on Dragontown. Merkborg projects regularly raise over $100,000. Shadowdark is now at the point where not only did the game raise over $1 million, it's not just that these games were successful in their own right. It's that they have made their own ecosystems that people are able to make jobs off of now. So Shadowdark has its own ecosystem now that it has been able to build out after its success, which is, holy shit, so big. Very few games, I think, have come along to actually do that. Some of those are like, if I were to say like people who have actually done that, Cairn has done that. I think a lot of people are supporting content made for Cairn. Not quite as much as Merkborg, though, which seems to have the most insanely, ridiculously huge growing like third-party brewer scene. I think, so Cairn, Merkborg, you've got your Shadowdark. I don't really know what else. I think it's a pretty rare situation that we see that not only is the game successful, but people that are homebrewing for it are also successful. I have heard of people who are able to make a full-time job now making zines for Shadowdark. If a game is successful, okay, like if a game makes a lot of money on Kickstarter, that's one thing, okay? Flash in the pans happen all the time. How you determine if it's successful is if the people that are making supplementary content for it are successful. That means that it's had a cultural impact. And that's what we're seeing with Shadowdark right now. That's hard to do. That's really hard to do. Pele Nielsen and Johan Noor are the last two guys I can think of that did that. This is big because this applies to TTRPGs made by companies as well. And even Free League has not had this level of success. The card games here, specifically non-trade card games, are struggling with those tariffs. It's going to get wild. We're going to see what happens. I am going to talk about that a little bit, though, here in just a second. So system neutral, that this content is going to start booming. It already has done really well, but we're already seeing an appreciation for this stuff starting to take off. D&D 3PP sales will continue to dwindle by another 20 to 30% from 2024. The only way we're gonna know about this, if this is true, is to see what Tabletop Analytics' results are like come December next year, okay? This is just the same amount that I have seen my sales keep going down every single year ever since the OGL situation. Immediately after the OGL situation, they went down by 75%. The next year, they went down by 50%. I'm estimating that they're probably going to dwindle by about another 20 to 30%. I am no longer banking on D&D third party being the thing that is paying my motherfucking bills, is the way to look at it, okay? If I'm not doing that, then I'm going to say to every amateur that's out there who isn't currently making money doing D&D content, you should not anticipate that that's going to be your reality in a year. If you want to prove me wrong, go for it. This is what I'm going off of right here, okay? Moving forward from there. Number 3, depending on tariffs, international printing for US companies is about to become unviable. However, the margins on zine-based content tend to be about 85 to 95%, even for a $10 zine. Woo! Let me show you what I mean there. 85 to 90%. Remember how I was saying that this book right here cost me about like $3 to make? That's because this is print on demand. This book is a print on demand zine that I got through Mixam. Mixam is a service that you can literally plug in a PDF and it will get you a zine printed in about 2 to 3 weeks. This is what JP Kubert does to print all of his stuff and ship it out, okay? Mixam is a huge asset. Please utilize them if you're interested in getting into this. But what this means is, what I can do here, the price that I would sell this at is going to be about $10. Now here's the deal. If I get it for $3 and I sell it for $10, how much money did I make, right? $7. So in all reality, I only made about like 70% is my margin right there. Here's the thing. But Taron, you said 85 to 95%. You're right. I did. That's because this is through a print on demand service. If I'm using offset printing, like I do a print run of 500 of these motherfuckers through like London Pendragon or another US printer, I get these for 50 cents a motherfucking print. Holy shit. So if I get it for 50 cents a print and I sell it for $10 a zine, that means I'm making how much, class? $9.50 per book? Oh. So Taron, you mean that you can get your game into more people's hands for cheaper and make more money off of it per book? Yes, I can. Oh yeah, bulk ordering once you hit that threshold is amazing. Yeah, I'm not lying about this. I could show you my quotes. I don't know if that would violate anything between me and London Pendragon, but I just want to let you guys know, like, I'm trying to be as transparent with that as I can because I genuinely want to see this whole scene thrive, okay? You can do print on demand and you can be happy making the like $7 a book, which is still good. That's still, you're making a profit, but like you could make more, you know? So like whenever I say, you know, if we're in the industry and we're looking at these kinds of sales figures, I'm looking at doing it as $10 a zine. Guys, like, I mean, Ben Milton charges $15. I know guys that are paying $25 to $30 for a zine. If I was making $29.50 for every book that I sold, that is more money than Wizards of the Coast makes on a lot of their print sales. And I would be making that on a zine. I'm not doing that because I know that, like, hey, I got to still build my rep up. I've still got to build a company, right? And I also just kind of prefer to have a very cheap and accessible version of the game that like people can have as a like, aha, this is in hand. I can give this to a friend and go buy another one and it's on my doorstep tomorrow as a brand new, nice, crispy little smell good zine, right? Look, learn to love 5.5 by 8.5 or you're only shooting yourself in the foot. Straight up. This is why I'm saying you need to do this. The print margins on big, thick tomes are about to become completely unviable. We haven't even begun, like, by the way, this print margin right here that I'm talking about, this is before tariffs. That's 65 to 75% is before we're starting to account for tariffs. And we know the printer, if you go through like a third party publisher or anything like that, they are not going to pay that tariff. They are going to pass that off to you. Hey, Greg, hey, what's up? Oh, this makes my head hurt. Yeah, I know, right, buddy? Hey, I'm right there with you, brother. Hey, it's Greg Leatherman. but like, so Greg, you do like print on demand. You hate it so much. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Is he in chat or is he on voice?
He's Lysander.
Hello, gorgeous human. How are you?
Yeah, but see, I understand like going through just doing print on demand. Yeah, you print on it because there's no headache. The logistics side of it is like you don't have to worry about it. I get it 110%. And he says hi. No, I feel you 100%. I would absolutely, if I could just put it up in my store and be like, I never have to handle the better streamer, Amanda. Fuck you.
Who says that?
It's Tanya. No,
I don't want to. Tanya.
If I could just not have to worry about my logistics, oh my God, I'd be so much happier. But yeah, worldwide distribution and everything, I absolutely understand why people just go through Drive-Thru-RPG and they're like, look, I will give up the 30% to not have to handle that. I understand that, absolutely. And especially with dealing with organizing fulfillment right now, not having to deal with VAT, value-added tax. Boy, if you thought that your head was already hurting because of this stuff right here, if I start talking about value-added tax, some of y'all are going to feel like this shit is rocket science. I mean, Glitter Hearts is its own thing with Japanime games. Oh, yeah, that's true. And dealing with the printing is still frustrating. I mean, they give you conrep too, though, right? Like, that's the other, like, real big, to people who don't really know in chat. So this is Greg Leatherman. Greg Leatherman wrote Glitter Hearts and, Mystery Business. So Greg Leatherman's another game designer. But, so, Greg, Japanime also gives you conrep, right? Like, they have, like, booth rep and everything for you. Or, because, like, that's what I had been told in an offer that I got on Vagabond. But the rest of the offer felt a little bit odd, and I was like, I'm going to hold off on that. Like, we probably need a third printing, but also with tariff looming, I don't know what we're going to do. So they are printing internationally. Yeah, they sell it at the cons. Yeah, okay. That is really big. Once it was explained to me how much power con presence was, holy hell. I was like, yeah, no wonder everyone drops like 10K for a booth. What? So if they're printing everything internationally, I'm going with an American printer right now on Vagabond. And like, I can still afford this, but yeah, at PAX U, GH was gone before I got there on Friday afternoon. Glitter Hearts was gone before you got there on Friday afternoon. Holy shit. Yeah, guys, like, this is the other big deal. Where Vagabond's at right now, people have asked if like, hey, don't you want to get this off to like a publisher or whatever to handle that for you? I would love to. I would absolutely love to, because of stuff like this right here. I would love to be able to have a publisher that was like, hey, you can't make it to PAX? Guess what? We're still selling your book there. And guess what? You don't have to be there. Here's $2,000 that we made at the convention. That is other people that this is worth it for you to give a part of the license out, to license the game out for other people to sell the game for you. Because it's money you don't have to work to make, is the way that I look at it. But yeah, I was told like I was offered conrep, European fulfillment, and all this other stuff, but like it was only with like an 8% royalty on every single book sale. And I was like, I get it, but you're trying to think wait, you've been thinking of trying to send Mystery Business through Indie Press Revolution, but they didn't do publishing. They don't do publishing. Yeah, they just like, you have to get the thing made and then they will handle fulfillment for you, right? Like, they are like Drive-Thru-RPG, but they have other perks to it as well, only they won't actually print the book for you. Like, they won't handle any of that, from what I understand, right? You need to find a local printer and pay a bunch of stuff to get the books and get it, store it somewhere else. Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I was gonna just do an order of like 1,000 books of the Vagabond Core rulebook and just start getting it out to like, Indie Press Revolution, all that stuff. Anyways, good to have you in chat, because you can also weigh in on some of this stuff because as I'm going through here. But basically, yes, to people who are asking, learn to love zines. This is also a really easy format to make stuff for. And like, people aren't expecting you to make like a 300-page book with a zine. Okay, they're expecting like maybe 16 pages, as high as like 60. If you guys saw Mothership Mothership, I think Mothership fulfilled for like it funded for like 2 mil. I might be wrong on that, but like it's a zine. The zine runs are so much more affordable, and you can do them at smaller scale, and it's not gonna absolutely break the bank. Like you can take out a personal loan that you pay off in like 3 months to do an entire print run of zines. It's not bad. I think the format is so good. What's the best way for nobody to build their brands, make stuff for other systems? You're gonna have to build small. Yeah, zine. I was talking about the overhead on zines earlier. Mystery Business was like 104. I wonder if there wouldn't be a way to bring that under like 80 to do it as a zine format. I think you could. I actually thought that the softcover version of it like made Drive-Thru RPG's printing look fantastic, which is like, dude, that's a feat in and of itself. Okay, wait, have lucky connections. Hang on. So, I mean, I have friends that work in the TTRPG scene now, but that's the thing is like, I made those connections genuinely. I made those connections as like people I got to know. This is one thing I've heard people talk about, like trying to leverage networking and stuff. And I'm like, this feels odd. I feel like a lot of people say this stuff and it's very transparent whenever you go up and you interact with people like this. Building up these relationships, sometimes going to a convention can help. But I will say the thing that happens with a convention is I am going to have a different experience with going to a convention than most people are. And what I mean by that is like, hey, whenever I went to Gen Con, 3 weeks before I even showed up to Gen Con, I got an invite to a private party with the Dungeon Dudes. That is not the experience that most people are going to have. The night that we showed up, Ted from Nerd Immersion invited me, Dungeon Dad, and Sarah from the Hype Goblin over to the Marriott Hotel for a private party it was in the lounge. It was a party with Kobold Press. That is not the experience that a lot of people are going to have in the TTRPG era. If you're a TTRPG fan, you know, if you're a smaller creator, that's just not what. So the things that work for me aren't necessarily always going to work for somebody else. But I will say I would not have expected that had I not worked for 5 years to get to where I was. Does that make sense? I had that stuff, but I had worked to get there. And the networking, all that stuff. So I understand networking, but the thing is, I don't consider the relationships I built up with people to be like, I only got to know this person because of their connections. I only got to know this person because of what they can do for me. That's selfish. That's manipulative. And that's not really the way that I think of it. Your first Gen Con in 2016 versus your Gen Con now are vastly different. Oh yeah, Greg, my favorite night, like, no lie, my favorite night of Gen Con 2023 was not the night that we all went to like Dungeon Dudes like party at 16-bit. It was the night that you, me, Ted, Sarah, LB, and like Amanda, Mallory were all in that like empty ass hotel ballroom like playtesting your game. That was just so much more like oh, what a small little like weird hobby we're a part of, huh? There was just something so cool about that. Like, let's get Taco Bell and like, yeah, we're not going to go out and get like super fancy dinner. We're not out getting drunk and wasted. We're just like, hold up in this like empty ass ballroom. What is his game? So Greg has made Glitter Hearts, the Mystery Business. And then there's another game I know that Greg is working on and that's what we were playing there. If Greg wants to say what that was, I'll let Greg do that. It was so fun. Yes, oh man, that was a blast. You know, these experiences and stuff like that. This networking, I do not get into it. Like, I'm not getting into a relationship whenever I'm like networking with somebody. That is different. You can say in February, oh hell yeah, congrats. Okay, so like I try to genuinely form friendships and like get to know people, right? Because if I don't, and it's just like, hey, you're Will from D&D Shorts, can you shout me out in your next video? That's weird. That is super weird. If I get to know Will, right, and you know, I get to know Will or whatever, I've got a project that's coming up, whatever, you know, but like, we're seeing what each other is doing. Because like we're all creatives that are working in this scene, and it's like we like lifting each other up. So like, yeah, if someone's got something going on, or like, you know, I've got people that are here like in my chat or whatever, they're clearly into TTRPGs, and I've got a little bit of reach. If I can throw someone a shout out or do something like that, I'm going to try to do it. We like building each other up, you know? Whereas if someone is leveraging, hey man, remember that thing I did for you? I need you to now give me a shout out and your clout on the money I'm trying to raise. That's very weird. That's not how you do this. Antonio from Pointy Hat. I did not ask Antonio for an ad spot. Anything. Antonio knew because we met each other at Gen Con 2 years ago, and like we had a blast and we liked each other. Antonio asked me if I would help out with Kraken Week and do my video. Boom, I did that, right? It's fun. We got to make content. That was fun. And then whenever he found out that I was doing Vagabond stuff, he just offered. He offered to give it a shout out. Wound up pulling in like $2,000. $2,000 in backers just because Antonio plugged it over on Twitter. Just because he was like, hey man, like what can I do to help out? Right? Awesome. Like, you know, and again, none of that is a transactional thing. It's not like, this was not a business transaction, right? This was just literally like, we met each other. We both like making stuff. And like, yeah, we shout each other shit out. Like, that's just, it's genuinely making friendships. And like, that's what creatives do whenever they are friends with other creatives. You know, it's nothing sinister. It's like, yeah. So don't act like you're Patrick Bateman. What? Here is where we get into some of the like upcoming stuff. We're kind of into unfamiliar territory. So I want everyone to know straight up, like, we don't know this is going to happen for sure. It's just what Trump has said he's going to do. So, but I mean, we lived through one Trump administration where he said something and did something entirely different. So I don't know. I don't know. So anyways, number 4, if tariffs pass, the first US-based manufacturer that starts making dice, screens, miniatures, boxes, and books, all in the US, is set to become insanely powerful in the industry, as the charges I've gotten thrown my way for Chinese manufacturing swung as drastically as 20 to 100%. I told you guys this about the story with the dice for Vagabond earlier on. In some ways, I don't 100% blame the manufacturer on the reason why this is getting kind of screwy. But at the same time, I didn't know that they were using a Chinese manufacturer. I actually thought that everything was made here in the States. So now we're suddenly hitting this moment where like, well, because tariffs are about to be a thing, they had to come forward and say, hey, the dice are actually made in China. Now we don't know really what to do about these tariffs, this tariff situation right now. And so this is causing a headache. I know that I'm fulfilling a Kickstarter and I might have some hiccups here with this. That's the explanation there. But please, this is impacting the entire industry. So give crowdfunders a little bit of patience on this. 5, I say this to highlight. These are the conditions in which independent bespoke content can thrive. Large-scale international manufacturing might take a hit. It's on you to use that to your advantage and fill the hole I'm predicting will be left behind in this ecosystem. American-made stuff is going to be tough because it's naturally more expensive to do anything here. Yes, I think if somebody is able to rival that, like, as far as dice, I have no idea. I don't know of an American dice manufacturer. I originally thought that my manufacturer was American. So, like, now to find out that, like, no, actually we were importing that stuff from China and just not saying it. I'm like, okay, cool. Screens. Like, I can get the screens made here in America because it turns out my printer that makes the books also makes DM screens. Had no idea. They randomly brought that up in one of the quotes and they were like, hey, we can also do this. Miniatures. I'm going to make a prediction right now. I bet you Reaper Bones is already looking at tariffs, and they are probably already trying to get ready to capitalize on this so hard. If somebody at Reaper is not immediately trying to prep how they can capitalize on also getting dice, screens, boxes, and basically become a major supplier. Reaper's missing out on becoming a potentially $1 billion business. For real. The fact that they can make miniatures is huge. The only leverage that other companies had is that they were overseas and able to do it cheaper. Now that we can't, Reaper's made in house already. That's what I'm saying. They're in Denton, Texas, and they can make custom minis for like fucking nothing. They do this every single day. If I can just go to Denton, guys, that's like a 10-hour drive for me. I don't have to pay shipping. I can save on shipping, not have to pay $3,000 to get these minis to my house, and all I got to do is go pick it up over there. Guys, if it's more expensive to do that stuff here in America, I offset the cost by not having to pay for shipping. I'll go get a goddamn U-Haul. You know, like, I'll go get it myself. I think Reaper could be in a position to be one of the most influential, if not like the biggest, like, manufacturer in the TTRPG scene coming up here soon. I don't know what their revenue's like. I don't know any of that other stuff, but I do know they are one of the only purely US-based resin miniature manufacturers, sculptors, everything handled in-house. Have I contacted Reaper? I haven't had a reason to. If they ever wanted to talk, like, I'd love to go to ReaperCon, you know, and just like, it's in Denton, Texas. Denton's a cool city. I went there for a jazz camp years ago. If they ever wanted to talk, hell, if I ever got to work for Reaper, I wouldn't want to move to Texas. No, I wouldn't want to move to Texas. If it were like remote work, I'd be happy to work with them and like fly into Denton like once a month or something. But like, I wouldn't want to move to Denton. What about 3D printing? Do you think that could be a major shakeup for the minis? It already has been. That's the deal, is like 3D printing has been here. People have gotten used to it. 3D printing to scale. Think about that. 3D printing to scale for fulfilling a Kickstarter. You can't do that out of your mom's garage. 3D printing is not going to be able to handle like fulfilling, usually for like big successful TTRPG stuff. If you have 10,000 backers, that is a fucking blowout. If you have like even 1,000 backers, that's really, really damn good. You've probably made, if you have like 1,000 backers, you've probably made around $100,000 in this scene. If you're trying to make 1,000 orders worth of miniatures, you're not doing that on like one 3D printer. That's not the kind of thing that like an individual can really do. Even if you have like a production kind of going on of like you and your buddies doing this on 5 machines, I'm betting that would probably take like, that's got to take months to figure out. Also, 3D printed minis, they're cheap, but that means that they break a lot easier. 3D printed minis do not stay together. They fucking snap over nothing. However, Reaper has been basically sticking with resin printing this entire time, and they've only been like reiterating on their new resin. Reaper Bones was like, they got like a lot more fine detail, et cetera, et cetera. You know, people that own print farms, but they take up space. Yeah, that's the other thing. But like, think about that. Like, they own a print farm. You have to have a farm to do that. If I am doing a Kickstarter and I'm like, we want to do custom minis with it, I am not setting up 20 resin printers to print my miniature line. I'm going to contact somebody with a company, and they can make resin minis or plastic minis for pennies on the dollar. And then like, I usually work out a deal with them where it's like, hey, you guys get to keep the molds of the stuff that you sculpt. I get this for the set. There's an exclusivity thing for like 2 years. And then after that, you guys print that mold as you would like to, et cetera, et cetera. We will move on. 3D printing makes it really easy for you to make like very custom stuff you want to make. That's cool. I think that's great. But doing big manufacturing for a big quantity in an order, that's so much better handled by manufacturing. So like 3D printing at home, that's not manufacturing. Whenever you have like a line and you see some machine that looks like if you put your hand in the wrong spot, you're going to lose it. That's the kind of scale you need. My quotes, whenever I've gotten quotes that have tried to factor in what they're trying to predict for these tariffs, it has been as much as double the price of the product. Double the price of the quote. And that's how hard we're talking about getting hit. I say all this to highlight these are the conditions in which independent bespoke content can thrive. Large-scale international manufacturing might take a hit. It's on you to use that to your advantage and fill the hole I'm predicting will be left behind in this ecosystem. I work best whenever I have my hands tied behind my back. Now, what I mean by that, I work best whenever I am in a creative restriction. Okay. I think the most interesting times that I made my best material have been whenever I had a restriction put down. Like whenever I'm practicing on guitar, one of my favorite exercises in becoming a better improviser, one of the best things that helps you to become a more melodic improviser is like on guitar, you have to play a solo, but you play it on one string. I can't change strings. Oh, that means all the chord shape or all the scale shapes I ever learned, coming up, I can't really use all that. But like, oh, okay, wait. I know what these notes are like here on this one string, so maybe I can tie together. Oh, okay. 3, 5, 7, 6, 5. Oh, okay. Wait, I can hear a melody forming, right? Aha. Bingo, bango. Suddenly, we have something that is making us get a bit more creative about how we make a melody, right? These are literally creative exercises. In this instance, I think that, at least the way that I'm seeing it, international manufacturing is if the tariffs go through, we may see a huge shift in the way that we have to reconsider like how we make products for the TTRPG scene, especially as independent creators. But this means that we can thrive in this scene. One of the things that we know is if this shit is going to start to get so expensive that we can't make the big goddamn tomes, I'm going to say straight up, the Rules Light stuff hasn't been making tomes for years. Like they have been not doing that for longer than they ever were doing that. If it's easier for them to make that content and like they're good at making that content, they're going to continue making that content and everybody else has got to get on the boat. Like, I think that this is the way that this is going to go until we see that there is a cheap American manufacturer that can do hardback printing and can do it at the price that compares to like, or can outpace like Lithuania. That's the one that like Lithuania printers are the ones that do like free league stuff. It's called Standard Impressa. Standard Impressa does like, I want to say they even did Shadowdark. I could be wrong on that. I think that they're now doing old school essentials stuff. They're doing a lot of free league stuff, but Lithuania has been like the big high quality printer that a lot of people have used. It's also been pretty cheap and all that. An American printer is going to have to really come up that can compete here. I know that I took a little bit of a hit on the quote for printing Vagabond because I wanted to use an American printer, because I wanted to just be able to go and drive to the factory if I needed to go and get this stuff. And now that I have done that, and now that I have seen it, I'm way happier at the end of the day. It might have been a little bit more expensive, but I'm not having to deal with the headaches of having ships or having a ship, I don't know, stuck somewhere out in the ocean that can't get stuff to me unless I pay $2,000 to somebody. I think that there is a way for a company to step in that can provide the service of cheaper American manufacturing. One of the other things is part of the reason why Chinese manufacturing has been so cheap is their really lenient labor laws. So like, this is kind of another thing where like, yeah, we've all been using Chinese manufacturing and like, maybe it is time we finally like, we finally stop that for a couple different reasons. My big things here at the very end, learn Affinity Publisher. The reason I say Affinity Publisher and not Adobe is definitely pricing itself out of relevancy. People are getting dog shit tired of everything Adobe keeps trying to throw at us with AI, trying to make claims of ownership over people's stuff that they make in their software so that they want to train their AI models more. Adobe is a subscription service that is extremely expensive. However, Affinity Publisher, on the other hand, is a one-time fee of like around $200. And the really, really funny thing is, if you want to get Affinity Publisher on the cheap, All you got to do is wait for Adobe to inevitably fuck up again, and Affinity Publisher is going to do one of those conveniently timed sales, and you can get the whole suite for like $40. Wait for Adobe stock price to start rising. Some C-suite is going to get caught, I don't know, mailing his dick out to his employees, and then Affinity Publisher is going to go on sale. It's the cycle of graphic design. And I say Affinity Publisher because not only is it cheaper, not only do the subscription service and all this other stuff, genuinely, because of how Adobe keeps fucking up their updates, I genuinely believe Affinity Publisher is more powerful at this point. I have had Affinity Publisher save projects I thought were doomed. Affinity is one of the only pieces of software that can take a PDF, you plug into it, and extract the assets, the art assets from that are embedded into the PDF, and allow you to use those in other software. Adobe can't figure that out for some fucking reason. No idea. Adobe cannot figure out how to take an image and extract it from the PDF. They made the format. How the fuck? Like, oh my God. Adobe is banging rocks together still at this point. They are waiting for the cyborg to come along and save their fucking company. So Affinity Publisher, I really recommend it. I am going to be learning. I know how to use Affinity Publisher. I'm going to be trying to learn how to use it and the capacity of making it my mainstay for layout, but I can't really do that until I'm done with Vagabond stuff. Once I'm done with Vagabond and I have that stuff printed and I have a print line out, I'm switching over to Affinity. Guys, that winds up saving me around $130 a month, which comes out to about like it comes out to around like $2,000 at the end of the year. I think it's a better product. I think it's a more ethical product. Affinity seems like a way cooler company. Adobe is doing a bunch of overreach that genuinely has me concerned about the competence of their CEOs, I guess is what I would say. Another little really fun trick, by the way, something that we all learned and we all kind of share, hey, it's that time of year. So for those of you that don't know, here's a little fun fucking cheat code for Adobe products. Adobe doesn't seem to have customer retention, or they used to at one point, and then some fucking dipshit thought it would be really funny to automate their customer retention department. And so what that means is, in automating it, you can begin to cancel your Adobe subscription. And because it's automated, that will automatically offer you a discount for the entire year of about $30 per month. And you can do this on every subscription you have with Adobe. So whenever you see that like Adobe goes for like $60 a month for the Creative Cloud, guys, I've been paying $30 a month since like 2019. Whenever you see that like all these products on Adobe are going for like, you know, whatever it is, you can get them on the cheap. It's just that you have to begin to start canceling your, you have to remember to do this every year, or else you just roll over and you start paying the original fee. But then that's just your yearly reminder. Hey, it's time for me to threaten Adobe to cancel. And then they offer you the rate that they know that they can afford to give you. They just upcharge you anyways because fuck Adobe. I'm waiting for the John Oliver bid on Adobe. Holy shit. I really recommend Affinity Publisher. I think it's genuinely more powerful. We just, unfortunately, like herpes, we feel like we're stuck with Adobe for life. We're working on getting rid of it. Research zines. I recommended the format earlier. I saw someone in Twitch that was actually asking, sorry if I missed something, but can I ask what the difference between a zine and a book is, if there is one? Here's a zine. Here's a book. Let me get into big screen. We know what a book is, right? Big book. I throw this at somebody, it hurt them, right? Here's a zine. A zine, typically staple bound softback, okay? Usually under 60 pages, because if you have any more, this, you can't really put it into signatures. Signatures are groupings of pages like this right here. This is a zine. You can print these on the cheap, and typically people really, really prefer them, especially in the OSR. You can put a bunch of these in a bag, and you have tons of adventures to run instead of one. So if you go to a convention, these things are just incredible. These are the ones that I make right here. I'm still working on some other stuff right now. Be happier making short form content rather than the big epic tomes like Dungeons and Dragons have brainwashed us into thinking are the only thing that can be successful. Waking of Willoughby Hall. This is like 30 pages. And this is one of the most like recommended adventures. Yeah, this keeps getting brought up all the time as like one of the recommended adventures for people looking at getting out of 5e modules. Or even if you are playing 5e modules, this one's easy to convert. The Cursed Scrolls are all hex crawls made for Shadowdark in a zine, and I think they're all like 40 pages. Do more with less. Okay, if I get a book, I heard this term whenever I was researching something on Zweihander. So there's a term called a fuck off book. Okay, and it's whenever you get a book like a game book that your DM goes, "Hey, we're gonna play this on Saturday," and if the sound that it makes when they set it on the table makes you go, "Oh, fuck off," there you go. You got a fuck off book. So fuck off books. If something is so dense, we've kind of done this thing where we were like, we've made books so big that like we started to make games less accessible. People have started to realize that, and they're cutting stuff back. And this is why, if you start to look at like what they're doing with OSE, Old School Essentials, Cairn, Knave, Shadowdark, what I'm doing with Vagabond, a lot of us are trying to move over into let's do more with less and cut back on how we need to express rooms. You can go and check out some of the adventures that I've written to kind of get a feel for the format. I would recommend looking at the Iron Coral from Into the Odd or Wrought Black Sludge from Merkborg if you want to see a really good example of that format and everything. Basically, it's like this, guys. I think that the format is changing. I am predicting in 2025, not only is D&D going to continue to keep slipping, I genuinely think that we're about to see the rise of more of the system light, or sorry, the rules light, system neutral content. If we're just talking about D20 Dragon games, right? If we're just talking about D20 Dragon games, I think that this is where we're going to see a lot of people move. Shadowdark is a thing that's going to stick. Like, this thing is going to have staying power. May not see that happen with, I mean, shit, I'll even say, may not see that happen with Vagabond. I'm going to keep making stuff work because I love running it and playing it. May not see that happen with, I don't know what's going to happen with MCDM stuff. I don't know what's going to happen with Daggerheart. I don't know what's going to happen with any of the other games that are out there. I don't know what their dedication is to continue to support that stuff. I do know I have seen two of those companies go over and immediately start working with Wizards of the Coast again after all the OGL snafu. But you know what? But I will say that if you are interested in becoming a creator right now, check out systems for what their licenses include. Okay. If it's a release of responsibility like you get with Shadowdark, Vagabond, or Morkborg, really start to learn to love it. 5e's license is so restrictive. Even operating under the OGL, they continue to try to keep their hands in the fucking cookie jar. Try to get away from 5e. If you really like 5e, you want to continue making for it, you keep doing you. You keep doing you. What I love is the fact that we all have a variety of options now that we can write for. And check that out. If you are a creative, you want to get out there and keep writing stuff, check out the licenses. This is just my observations as somebody who's been working in the TTRPG scene. It's only financial advice in that I'm trying to give you tips. All that financial advice with your taxes and all that stuff, that's a whole other deal. People keep telling me to cover my ass with any disclaimers and shit like that at the end of videos. So, yeah, anyways, look, at the end of the day, I'm a moron who makes stuff for TTRPGs. So,